Hey all you buffs, this is Ian. Welcome to another episode of Philosophy Friday. You know what? I think we're really stretching the definition for the word philosophy here. Yeah, this is kind of a thing now. I mean, most of the time you're so used to just seeing Ethan back here behind the camera, but now I've taken over. You're welcome. Apparently we're supposed to start with a question here, but I'm just gonna go throw that all out the window here, and I'm just gonna go start with a quote. Government's view of the economy could be summed up in a few short phrases. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops moving, subsidize it. If you don't know where that quote is from, it's from none other than an international movie star turned politician. From the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan himself. So now before you ask me, Ian, why'd you start with a Ronald Reagan quote? It's not because of the status of the quote, it's because of the status of the person. He has a very important place in today's topic. Yeah, but still, I picked the quote because it's Ronald Reagan. He's an awesome guy. He's like, he's up there as one of the greatest presidents out there. How can you hate a guy who, when he got shot, almost assassinated, almost died, was lying on a hospital gurney about to go into surgery, he had the wit to tell his grieving wife while she was there beside him, "Sorry honey, I forgot to duck." Back to the topic of today's video. We're going to be talking about the driving force behind modern day economy of the United States, and that has to focus heavily on the philosophy that is trickle-down economics. More commonly, it's also referred to as Reaganomics because Ronald Reagan is seen as the guy who helped coin it, who helped make it into legislation, who helped turn America's economy into the system where we favor the rich over the poor that we see today. But before I start talking about him just a little bit further, let's get a little baseline reading about the American economy before you came into the picture. Welcome to the 1960s, everybody. Not quite the 1980s. Sorry about that, Trudeau. This is America, the land of the free, home of the brave, with a booming economy following their victory in World War II. Fueled by their leftover powerhouse industry that helped the Allies win their war, they established a strong and relatively fair system that benefited the workers as much as it did the rich. It was all fueled by their strong-armed auto industry and more people moving from the city centers out into the suburbs. And due to the start of the Cold War, which helped boosted their arms manufacturing tremendously, mega corporations and larger conglomerates started to flood this market at this time. This is where the emergence of the modern day corporations started to actually take life. Globalization started to take root at this point as more and more companies were sending work and labor offshore to reap cheaper expenses and gain better rewards. At home, the working class were surviving and prospering like all the rest of America at this time. Workers could relax in good terms, knowing that they will keep their good, stable job and retire with a pension at the end of it. The Fair Deal, which was strong armed by President Harry Truman himself, was supposed to switch the American production line from a wartime effort into a peacetime effort, but it very quickly lost favor with all the voters, and soon lost favor in Congress as well. President Truman watched in dismay as they attempted to dismantle all the liberal policies set by his predecessor, FDR, during the war. This also effectively ended FDR's prospecting Second Bill of Rights, coined the Economic Bill of Rights at the time. Whoa, slow down everybody, we're still getting to you. There's a whole lot of lead up until we get to you, so just hold your horses and just wait for just one moment, okay? One moment. The 1970s was a very innovative time for America, both socially and technologically. The population increased worldwide, and tensions with the USSR would even grow at a higher stakes than before. It was also at this point that the Middle East was starting to plunge itself into isolation and chaos. A collective neutral attitude towards each other turned into a bloodthirsty hatred. The USSR can mainly be seen as the spark for all this anger and hatred towards Western ideals as they invaded Afghanistan to help support one of their puppets they had established there. This is also the time when you see a mass migration of fighters from the Middle East into the Afghan region to become mujahideen anti-imperialistic fighters fighting to defend their homeland. But the US, of course, is not one to shy away from blame in this regard. Due to the support of Israel, especially during the Yom Kippur War, and their demanded foreign policy, their support of the Shah of Iran not to be underestimated, Middle Eastern countries turned their fury towards the US and their allies. Following the next decade, Middle Eastern countries and other oil-producing nations decided to declare an embargo of oil against all Western nations. Now you might say, so what? We have the oil fields here. We can survive until their freedom is restored. Yeah, you can be sorely mistaken on that point. The reliance of the Middle Eastern oil was actually crucially underlined during this time. Many Western nations' economies actually truly suffered during this point of time. To put this all into perspective, Sweden, a relatively strong economic nation for Western standards, relied on 77% of all their oil from all OPEC nations. So the economy was collapsing, oil prices were skyrocketing, and the US was slumping back into a depression again. Hey Reagan, how you doing, bud? Ronald Reagan, everybody. As I was saying, welcome to the 1980s, everybody. Just as campy as the 1960s, except this time with color. Meet Ronald W. Reagan, the popular movie star turned politician, an American Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you will. He was the everyman's man, ready to serve the American people. Make America great. Sorry, Trump. He just did it so much better the first time. Reagan ran on the policy of fixing the economy and keeping America safe during the Cold War. Now, how he planned to fix the nation was a very simple device. Taxes. And no, I don't mean by raising the taxes in order to increase government spending on social systems like Medicaid or government policies and government pensions supplied to its citizens. I mean that he actually cut taxes across the board. He cut taxes for the rich as much as he cut taxes for the poor. Now, he didn't actually stay with the cuts, he actually ended up raising them up again as soon as he realized, yeah, you kind of need money to support a government. He proposed a simple concept: trickle-down economics. Now, what this was is a very simple philosophy of how to kickstart the economy. He would raise the taxes up for everybody else, but instead leave the cuts for the top richest people in America. How he proposed that this would fix the economy is that, in theory, the richest people would actually invest their wealth back into the economy, therefore growing the economy further, therefore growing their wealth. But of course, as you know, this was all in theory. In practice, it didn't really quite work out this way. You see, now the rich take their investments, and instead of investing them back into the American economy, they decide to go build their factories and their investments all overseas and gaining their wealth, their capital wealth further. But in all regards, the simple policy implemented is what caused the great divide in American wealth that can be still found to this day. Some see him as a saint, or some see him as a devil. But in all seriousness, Ronald Reagan's policies are still incredibly controversial in terms of the economy. But all of his other policies...
Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
He turned out all right.